So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Malini Singh McDonald, who is our moderator. And she's just extraordinarily gifted and talented and generous creative professional, and has a PR business and a theater beyond Broadway, which helps promote all theater outside of the main Broadway. So you can read more about her bio, read more from her bio in the program. But I'll turn it over to you for today's panel, Working Across the Disciplines to Achieve Parity.
Thank you. Thanks, Heidi. Hi, can you hear? Oh, okay. Do we need this? All right, I'll stop. So, hi, I'm Malini Singh McDonald. I'm thrilled to be on this panel to moderate Parity because it's a story of all of our lives, yes? So what I'll do first is introduce you to our amazing panelists, and I will give you their name and their discipline, and their bios are in the program. And right next to me is a woman I do know very well. Her name is Amber Sloan, and her discipline is dance. And right next to her, I have Felicia. That's wrong. And I numbered it, guys. Vanessa Morrison, and her discipline is film. Next to her is Eliza Poulos, and her discipline is theater. And next to her is Naomi McDougall-Jones, film. And Vera C., design. And next to her, we have Leah Anderson, music. And next to her, Shelley Lubin, theater. Shellen, I apologize, sorry. Shellen Lubin with theater, and at the end we have Regina Sawyer.
No, it's Felicia Lynn.
It's Felicia Lynn. Well, am I? On this parody. Felicia Lynn, literature. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. So to start this off, I'm going to share a little story. A few months ago, Heidi and I did an event on a show that I was working on. And this particular show was told from a very strong male point of view. But the cast and creative team was about 70% women. So we decided to have a discussion about what it is to be able to create art regardless of the piece, and get our voices heard. And what was really interesting is two things. One, when we were sitting down ready to have this panel with women in the audience, the gentleman who was the producer and played the main role, sat in on it. And he had no clue that this was even an issue. So that was number one. And number two was the fact that 19% of women playwrights, designers, and directors are directing theater. And that's my discipline, and I know that, and I know Shellen can talk a little bit more about that. So what I would like to know, if you could share your experiences and take 2 minutes about your personal experience in creating the art and knowing that we are underrepresented, and saying, how do we empower ourselves in this world? Because the reality is, and Cheryl and I have been talking about this before, as you get higher up the ladder, that percentage of women working is less. It gets less, the percentages get less. I'll start with you, Amber, then we'll just go right down the line.
Okay. Oh, should I say this? Hello. My discipline is dance. I'm a performer and a choreographer and a teacher. I've been working in New York City since 2001. And dance is a genre that's filled with women. The majority of the dance community are women. But the issue is that you said that the higher you get up the chain of high prestigious grants or awards or artistic directors, it dwindles down and men are featured. And for an example, so in the more emerging choreographers category in different theaters, women are higher than men. The amount of women produced are higher. But when you get into more prestigious things, let's say Fall for Dance, which is a very popular event in City Center because tickets are like $10, $15 and everyone goes. So I was doing a little research, and for the last 3 years, it's been about like 23 male choreographers to 6 women choreographers per year. So for a field that's filled with women, that's a drastic number. As far as me with my art making, I felt that struggle. I mean, as a choreographer, money is hard to come by, but I do see lesser experienced choreographers getting more things, and that can be frustrating. Yeah, I'll set that. There's so much I can go into in many different directions, but I'll let it go down the line and see where the panel goes.
Can we pass that microphone down?
Of course.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amber.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Morrison, and so my field is film, and I'm going to speak about strictly like film as a woman being in the union. So I'm in Local 600, and I'm in the cinematographers union, and starting out in the business, I didn't really see many women in the film industry, particularly in the camera department, and so instantly entering, I'm like, what's going to be the challenges that arise? Not only am I a woman, but I'm a Hispanic woman. So the struggles were definitely there. And as each year comes and goes, I was looking at the statistics of my union, and we have roughly about 8,000 members in this nation. And there's only about 1,000 of them to be women. And it's recently my fellow friends and coworkers who are females, we created this forum for the women in the union, and we started to actually have a real intense conversation about this. And it's striking to see that like the statistics so real, and they haven't really jumped from 2 years ago till now. So what I see that not only myself I'm getting involved in, and also my coworkers and partners and friends, is that we're actually having real life group discussions about this, and it's amazing because we can collaborate with each other, which I hadn't seen before. And we're actually starting to think, like, how can we support each other? What is it that we can do to then tell a coworker of ours who hires us and say, well, I don't really know many women in the camera department, and we just look at them and like, are you serious? Do you need any recommendations? Because we can give you a list of women. And one of the things that we took on, or one of the women in the group took on, was creating a website that had all the cinematographers that were of women, and easily can say, do you need a woman? Go to this website. And here you go, you have everyone that's from union and everyone that's from non-union that's been qualified to be on this website, and now you have no question in not knowing that there aren't any women out there.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
So my name is Liza Bulos, and my discipline is theater. I, along with my partner Farah Jean-Philippe, we run a theater company called Warner D. Brio Theater Company, which is based in Brooklyn. So it's very interesting. I used to be an actress, and in theater you have all these struggles, even as a producer, as a director, if you're a playwright, if you're an actress. So when I was acting a lot, you get so burned out because, especially as an ethnic person, you get typecast in certain roles, and that's all you're really able to do, right? It's very rare to get like a mainstream kind of character. There's a lot more now, but it's a struggle to get there, and there's so many actors, right? And then again, also I saw as playwrights, women playwrights, there's only probably 17% representation of women playwrights or plays that are produced across the United States. It's a really low number. And you don't really see a lot of when you talk about classic plays or just, they're all male. So that was really, really, really sad and interesting for me. And then there's also just a handful of female producers that actually produce shows or has money or runs a theater company. There's only a handful of them. So, and that's why my friend Farah and I, we were talking about this, and we decided, we need to, and I attended this kind of convention or symposium where there was a lot of talking and ranting about how it's not fair. And so I said, instead of getting mad at the system, how about we just do something about it? And so my friend Farah and I, let's just, in our own way, we can't change the world, we can't change the dynamic immediately, but we can do something within our community, we can do something ourselves, we can tell our stories and kind of take that power in our hands instead of just, pounding doors and getting mad at people and getting mad at the men. That's not the way to make a change, right? So we decided to form our own theater company, and every year now, it's kind of like my baby. I have been producing this series called See, Hear, Taste, Touch, and that's how I actually met Heidi. We've been collaborating a lot. It's kind of a mini festival. I wanted to give women playwrights a chance to have their plays be produced. So it's a one-act festival, and I get submissions. I don't charge any money for you to submit to me. You can just submit as you want. And then there's also an art exhibit component, because I wanted local women artists to give them a platform, because to have their work be, shown and on all that stuff. And I always make it a point to hire up-and-coming actors as well, because again, that's the whole point of the festival. So this is wholly produced by me and our company. There's, we don't really get a grant for this. This is an entirely passion project. It's been 6 years going now, so I'm really grateful, and we have a great following. I just had one, we actually just had one last week. So, so those are some of the struggles that I saw, and it's still happening. And the point is, for me, I think, is to have these good conversations and not be mad at the system, but actually try to find a way to collaborate and include men as well. It's important for them, I think theater is not exclusive, theater is inclusive. And if we try to segregate, too much, I think we weaken the theater community. Whereas if we include men, we include everyone, all race, gender, sexual orientation, it doesn't matter, and we collaborate and figure out a way to tell them, women are underrepresented, what can we do about this? We collaborate, maybe theater companies can have more women on the board, or maybe they check and see what's our season like? Are we representing women in our season? Or is it just one person, or is it zero, right? Because most of the time, theater companies have 0 women playwrights in their season. So, these are just some of the things that I thought of that we could maybe have theater companies do, and just continue to produce works that are female-centric. It doesn't have to be a very angry kind of, no, this is not fair, but in a loving, positive way, like my festival is all women, but I did do one festival in November for 1 year for men, because I wanted to be fair. And so, and I actually got, it was really funny, because when I put out an ad for that, I got a lot of backlash from female playwrights, thinking that I was being unfair, and not knowing that this was the one and only time that I was producing something for the men. And so, just kind of having that conversation and being positive about it and thinking of ways to produce works that would represent women, I think is a good start to things, and hopefully we can have a paradigm shift and, it would spread onwards.
Thank you, Liza.
Hi, I'm Naomi McDougall-Jones. I'm a filmmaker, a writer, actor, producer, and it'll come as no surprise to any of you that the numbers in film are abysmal. But I just want to tell you how abysmal, because I think we don't always notice. So of the top 100 Hollywood films in 2014, 12% had leading female characters, Of the top 100 Hollywood films in the last 13 years, 4% were directed by women. And in the 88-year history of the Oscars, one woman has ever won Best Director. Inarritu now has more Best Directing Oscars than women. Like at all. So, yeah, it's terrible. And there's this culture within the film industry that's very deeply embedded that is both a conscious and unconscious bias against women. So when I was trying to make my first feature film, we had an all-female producing team, a female writer and a female director. We didn't have any kind of feminist agenda, we were just trying to make a film that we believed in, with the best people. And the film was about two women, and very quickly within the film industry, we were told, well, you know, you are going to have to get a male producer on board at some point so that people will trust you with their money. Like that was said to us aloud in the room. And then we heard over and over, well, you know, people don't really want to see films about women. And I was like, well, I want to see films about women. I can't be the only person. So I think what you do about it is such a great question, and I think there's a question, us as female artists, I think we do have a responsibility above and beyond making our own work. I think still it is a radical act to make your own work as a female artist, so I do think the first step is just making your shit. And whatever you have to do to make that happen, you just have, like, if it's crowdfunding or whatever, I think you have to just make it and not wait for anybody to give you permission, because so many things are set up so that you won't ever get that permission. So I think that's the first leg, but I think, and I believe that there will be a day, and I think we will get to a day where that's all you have to do and then that's it. But I think right now that's not enough. I think you have to look at how can I make this situation better for all of us, whether it's hosting a salon to give women a forum to talk, whether it's mentoring a younger artist to help them up to where you are, whether it's collaborating with other women, giving them opportunities, or whether it's out-and-out activism. So something I've been working on, in addition to my own work, is I had the opportunity to talk to this woman, Lois Scott, who is the former CFO of the City of Chicago. And I was explaining to her at a dinner party sort of this women in film situation, and she said, she grabbed my arm across the dinner table and she said, okay, we're going to make a women in film fund and we're going to fix this. And I was like, great. So she and I together have been working on putting together a $20 to $50 million film fund that would fund films only written and directed by women in the $1 to $2 million range, because if you look at the film business, that's where the choke point happens. Like you were saying, women are graduating from film schools at the same rate that men are. They're making micro-budget films at the same rate that men are, but once you get to the $1 million budget, the numbers fall off dramatically because people don't trust women with big budgets. So the goal of this film fund would be to create a new model and demonstrate that not only can women handle money and bigger budgets, but that they can make films that are every bit as interesting and exciting and commercially viable as men can. So,
oh my gosh. Thank you.
All right, Vera. Hi, I'm Vera C. I represent the design profession. I'm an architect in New York. I've been living here for 10 years, but I've led an international life. I started my career in Hong Kong, worked on the IFC complex, which is 88 stories of tower, and then a commercial retail space, and I also worked in the airport station. I worked on these giant male-dominated projects when I was, just graduated. Had all the experience in the world. Then I moved to America, started my career in, in San Francisco, and I was working on similar projects, 2,000 or 1 million square foot office spaces, high-tech industry, .com, it was like year 2000. So all was great until the .com crashed, but then I decided I wanted to pursue the arts profession as well, because I'm also a jewelry designer and artist, so I moved to New York. So I started pursuing, basically working for art, collaborating with Urs Fisher. I worked on the installation You. So it was an installation destroying an art gallery, saying what is art and and what is architecture. So sort of represented my life in New York. So now I, work on primarily residential projects in a very male-dominated world with developers who are hungry for money. So in my firm, I've managed to become a senior architect there. And my boss finally recognizes that I know what I'm doing. But I had to beat out all the men in my firm to get to that position, which was tough. And I'll just read you some stats. Have you ever experienced any sexual discrimination, harassment, or victimization during your career in architecture? This is from 2016 Women of Architecture survey. So 72% is yes, 20% no. I'll read you another stat. Does having children put women at a disadvantage in architecture? 83% yes, 17% no. So it just gives you an overall of what I have to fight to stay in this profession.
Thank you.
My name is Lee Anderson. I represent music. I am a singer, songwriter. I play the flute, I play the piano, and I do musical theater. So I can only really speak from my perspective of what the music business and the music industry is like. But from what I could see and what I've been through, women were very powerful. We could sing our insides out. We've been through the pain, and we know how to serve the pain on a platter, on a CD, and sell it easily. But the hard thing about it is when we're in an industry that is dominated by men, where women are viewed as sexual objects, especially black women, especially for me being a black woman, trying to make it in the music industry, I was faced with a lot of, yeah, I want to work with you, yes, this is great, and then they'll text me, good morning, beautiful, text messages. When you know that I just want to work, I'm not looking for that. And so I think that's a lot of things, I think that's a big reason why women aren't as high up as men in the music industry, because they are faced with those battles and they just don't want to deal with it. But I feel it's not my generation, but the generation right before me, the women that are in their 40s, they are breaking the ground. And they are starting organizations like Black Girls Rock, where we are working together and we're able to not repeat history, and we're able to help each other pull up. I just met this wonderful woman, Katie Wilson, and she said, she's in her 40s, and she's like, she's gonna help me pull up. And that's what we need to do. I'm gonna meet somebody in their 20s and I'm gonna help them pull up. That's what we need to do as musicians. Women, we can't depend on men so much, but we can depend on each other. So if we keep sharing our lessons and sharing our experiences and helping other women through music break through, then we'll get up eventually. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Lubin. I'm not even in my 40s anymore, and I think that is what I offer this panel, longevity. I've probably been doing it longer than anybody here, and it's been both heartening and depressing to listen to how similar the stories still are. You know, for over 40 years, I have been fiercely fighting the good fight to do work, to make art. I'm a songwriter and a playwright and a director and a teacher, and work on changing the narrative and the story and the way and the perspectives through all of that. Started as an actor and stopped doing that primarily because I couldn't do it through that avenue. As a songwriter, as a singer-songwriter, getting up on a stage, I could, writing my own songs, but you know, as much, the best example I give, didn't want to sing, you know, Someone to Watch Over Me. I didn't understand why people didn't get why that was a problematic song. We're talking a long time ago. So anyway, yes, both studied and taught in the Black Music Department of Bennington College, and I've been around for a long time. And one of the things that I've discovered in all these years of working is, you know, you talk about people helping other people, and there aren't the mentors. There were not the mentors for me at all. And now even the mentors that are there for people in their 20s and their 30s too often are still having their own struggles. We can mentor, but it's not mentoring to the same place of achievement too often where the mentoring is needed. So we need to do it on a larger scale, in a bigger group. I love this project that you're doing. And what we created over 20 years ago, it started as the New York Coalition of Professional Women in the Arts and Media, and it was representatives of all of the unions and guilds in theater and film, women in music, women in communications, NIWIFT, which is Women in Film and Television, and the League of Professional Theater Women, which is Women in Theater. And that organization was fighting the good fight for a lot of years. And I had been the co-president a number of years ago. I became the co-president 5 years ago at a point when the coalition almost died out. And I said, no, this is the time when we can make stuff happen on a much larger scale. Because if you think, somebody mentioned that it hasn't happened before, it has happened before. Women have had plays on Broadway. Women have had major musical careers. Go back centuries. There are always periods, and then they get written out. And then they get pushed back into the home, and then they get pushed back into being sexual objects, and it gets written out. But it can't be written out anymore. It just can't be written out because of the internet. So until we have a dystopic universe, which may be coming, as we all know, we can't be written out anymore. Every bit of history that we put online, every woman, writer, inventor, musician that we do a play about or write a piece about and put out there can't be written out anymore. And there are amazing women through the centuries who have done amazing things. And so now, I am co-president again of the Women in the Arts and Media Coalition. We are adding organizations all the time. Just added, in fact, Local 802 this last year, which is the Musicians Union. I want to talk to you because we really should be getting the cinematographers in there too, especially if you have a women's committee now. The one that we cannot get and have never been able to get is the Directors Guild, because they don't care about their women. They don't care about their women. And I will say that out loud because it just is, and we have tried. But all the other unions in theater and film are members. And we are all working together to try and make it different, to link all of the small movements, all of the small organizations, to publicize them online, to publicize their efforts, and to work together. We had last December a Gender Parity Day where we got people from every movement around the world that we could get, including Toronto, Canada, the Equity in Theatre Movement, Waking the Feminists, which had just started in Ireland at the time. And we had representatives of all these movements brainstorming about how we can work together and support each other. We want to do it, actually this fall we're supposed to be doing it with all of our music organizations, a Gender Parity in Music Summit, and we're working to then do the same thing with film and television, a Gender Parity in Media Summit, because it was incredibly successful. And it was incredibly heartening to get these people together who are all working on having their own artistic voices heard, having other women's artistic voices heard, and having the whole narrative change about what it is that we are capable of. I do want to say one more thing, which is when you talk about unconscious sexism, we deal with it, and I'm not going to get political, but we deal with it all the time. What women are forced to do, and the games that women are forced to play, and the adjectives that women are forced to be in order to be accepted in one way that then do not allow them to be accepted in another way. It is a perpetual struggle, and every step of the way you have to keep deciding what you're willing to do and what you're not. And it's not like there's one answer, there's not one answer, and you have to keep looking at it and reassessing it all the time.
Hi, my name is Felicia Lynn, and I'm an author. I'm representing publishing. The publishing industry is very interesting because, as most of us know, it's very female-dominated. Like 85% of employees, like people that work in publishing, like for publishing companies, are actually women. However, it's a really interesting phenomenon that most of the authors that are getting reviewed and most of the reviewers are actually men. It's something like 70% of reviewers and authors that get reviewed are men. And I myself, I have a book that I co-wrote out. It's a romantic comedy novel. It's self-published. It's called Metropolis, and I'm also working on a second book, which is a biography of a Taiwan revolutionary, a gentleman named Su Bing, who is now 97, and was very instrumental in the recent presidential election. We just elected a female president for Taiwan. He's very supportive of Taiwan, who's the president-elect. But the thing is, as a self-published author, I think that this is a very good alternative to kind of level the playing field, because there's a lot of data out there that says that it's enabled a lot of women to break the glass ceiling, and there's some statistics, well, I won't go into that, but the majority of self-published authors are women, so it's a really good alternative to do that. So I'm a really strong advocate of making your own project happen. I had a crowdfunding campaign for the biography that I'm writing, and I took on this project to write the biography of Su Bing of my own volition. It's like a passion project. That was actually my first book project. Metropolis happened to come first. So I'm a really strong advocate of just making your own projects happen for yourself. And then also just supporting other people along the way who may be inspired or looking to you for advice, like how did you do that? You know, definitely help them out and give them your advice or share your experience with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Regine L. Sawyer. I'm the owner, writer, creator of Lock It Down Productions, and I represent the other half of publishing, comic book publishing. Yeah. And that industry is a different animal in and of itself. I'm also the founder and coordinator of Women in Comics NYC International Collective. And that was created 4 years ago. We had a panel discussion for the first time in the Bronx, and it was very interesting because number one, the questions that we were asked, and number two, afterwards speaking with the panelists about how they were treated in the comic industry. And one panelist in particular has been in the industry currently for almost 20 years, and almost no one knows about her. She has drawn on every popular comic book that has turned into a movie that you could ever think of. She has done designs on said characters for said movies, and no one knows who she is. And after speaking with her, she said, no one invites me to these things. No one wants to talk to me. And she wasn't upset about it, it was more sad. It was more sad. And that in turn made me sad. And so from there, Women in Comics sort of burst onto the scene. And we started with 8 members, and now we have 115. And we are worldwide. We have members in Cameroon, Denmark, France, Europe, Canada, and of course the United States. So we tour the country doing panel discussions, we do workshops, and we also have a full-fledged Women in Comics convention. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. In terms of statistics, number one, female readership in comics. Currently, it matches male readership. It's 56% as of September 2015. There's a website called graphicpolicy.com, and it does gender crunching numbers every month and keeps track of readership. And another website, Bleeding Cool, also keeps track of women working in the mainstream comic book industry, meaning your Marvel, your DC, your Image Comics. And right now, with DC alone, they just had a resurgence of their comics. They're redoing some of them, and the amount of women working on those comic books, writers and artists, have now decreased by about a good 6-7%. And men writing those books have increased. And along with the decrease in women writing and creating these books, so has female characters leading books has decreased as well by, I would like to say, a good 45%. Wow. With that said, I represent the independent comic book industry. And in the independent comic book industry, you will find a stronger sense of diversity in terms of race, sexual orientation, and gender. And I often encourage people to explore the independent comic book industry. However, what people see mainly is the mainstream. And in order to influence that mainstream, we have to infiltrate it. We have to kick doors down. We have to currently have women in comics cons, and we have to have our own groups. We actually have male members. We have one. We currently have one. And he does earn his keep. He does earn his keep. But in order for us to grow and be taken seriously, we have to come together, we have to bond, we have to have a sisterhood. If we don't create a corporation and basically take over the industry and let them know that we're here and we mean serious business, nothing will happen. So we have to do it.
This was extremely powerful. Wow. So what I'm a little bit in shock of is actually, I knew about the percentages. I didn't know about the percentages. And I think that's what's really important. And to hear about the cinematographers, that there's 8,000 cinematographers and 1,000 women. I didn't know that. So I think even as women, as we're talking, the one thing that each one of you said was to keep this conversation going is to continue sharing this information.
I just want to say,
Please.
I was telling you before, we have a lot of resources on the website for the Women in the Arts and Media Coalition. One is our studies page, where we have aggregated studies from around the world on theater, film, and television done anywhere on representation of women. And it's horrible everywhere. And it's pretty much the same everywhere. But it's still worth seeing and worth reading and worth noting which disciplines have it the worst within each industry, etc. So they're all there if you want to go check them out.
And I'm going to get that information. Go for
To
it.
clarify, it's 8,000 members, and not only cinematographers, so it stems from loaders, camera assistants, operators, and director photographers as a whole. There are 8,000 members, and then 1,000 of those members are divided into those sections that are women, only women. So, yeah. And
Thank you for clarifying
yeah,
that. Thank you for mentioning those other roles, because I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So, Heidi, how are we with time? Do we need to wrap up?
Well, we're going to pass out some pizza here, and we have a little bit of time.
Well, 50 minutes is a...
Thank you again, ladies. What we'll do is I'll open it up to these fierce people. I'm sure that you have either some feedback or questions while you have your pizza. All right.
I suppose I should be asking a question about the theater. I'm so intrigued by this comic. Do you separate comics from graphic novels? Or is graphic novels part of comics?
Well, a graphic novel is a comic.
That's what I
It's
thought.
totally
Okay.
comic.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow up with a question. I'm a creator of a graphic novel that I self-published. I've been selling it for about 8 years now. But I'm really fascinated by this. First of all, it's great what you're doing, so thank you. And I want to just, while I might give a shout out to Heidi as well for organizing this. She's such a visionary. So there's a lot, all that she does, and Jenny as well. But I'm really fascinated by the statistics you gave, which I completely trust. Because, I mean, what you said about the music industry, I ditto that completely. It's true about, as well. But what I'm fascinated by is how many women are being cut out of the profession and how many women are actually reading comics. So do you have a take on why that dynamic is happening, and is the industry totally oblivious how many women are reading comics, and why aren't more female characters being portrayed given that?
They know.
They always do.
They always know. They absolutely totally know. But I think sometimes when an organization or a company wants to downplay your power, that's what they do. That's what they do. They try to cut you out of the conversation. And that is presently, in my opinion, what's being done. They'll see the statistics, say, oh, you know, your numbers are whatever, they're skewed or what have you. But this particular website, Graphic Policy, and another website called Comics Beat, they do the gender crunching every single month without fail, And just knowing women that read comics and girls, I know it's not true. I know it's not true in the sense that we are reading these books, we are buying these books, our money has power, but yet our voices do not.
It's the men control the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So they know, but they choose not to acknowledge it. Well, they acknowledge it the way they see fit.
I actually, if you don't mind, I actually want to roll that over to that question, such a good question, to Vera in the world of architecture, because I'll be honest with you, I only know one, besides you, I now only know one other person.
Right.
A woman who is an architect. And the stats you gave for that was ridiculously high. So are they being edged out, or are they just?
I mean, when I went to college, I graduated in '95, it's a long time ago, but 30% were women and 70% men. Now it's more like 50-50. I'm actually working with mostly women who just graduated, and they have no idea what's going on. They're so oblivious to the struggle, and I do try to tell them that, because some of them, I guess because of media and culture, they dress up at work in these titles for someone. That's not a good idea. You're working with contractors and developers. You should, you know, present yourself in a different way. So I do try to educate them that they're up against a struggle. They shouldn't assume that, you know, you can just walk in and not know the past. And recently, Zaha passed away. She was sort of like a beacon for women architects. She won the Pritzker Prize. She was the most powerful woman in architecture, probably. And so we've lost a voice. And so I don't know that any woman could step in her shoes in the same way, because it's almost like you have to beat men at their own game. That's the only way. You have to be that much better.
You actually beat me to the punch that I wanted to make today in honor of her work. It's just incredible. How many people out there have heard of her? Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up.
You had your hand up?
I think your name is Regina.
Regine.
Regine. You're talking about how there's a lot of female readership of the comics, but you'd think that if there's a female market, like I know in publishing, the female market's actually a bigger part of the readership of publishing. So I've heard anyway.
Yeah, there are more women read than men.
More women reading, and therefore there's more books written by them. So I've heard written by women.
Yeah, that
very only fewer reviewed.
Yeah, part of the issue is are women getting published at the same rate as men, and they're not. So that's also affecting the women authors getting reviewed, right? So then you have to look at the question of why not that many women authors are being traditionally published.
Well, that comes to my question, which is, since women are the market, a big part of the market, why is our money not?
Well, can I jump in? And I think whenever there's a system, it's working very well for the people who are at the top of it, who are men. So this is true. There are more women buy film tickets, more women buy theater tickets. So obviously the no-brainer answer is, well, then obviously people do want to see films about women and by women. But the people who currently have the control, if they give in to that information, then they lose the control that they have.
But
so
there's another piece of it. There is another piece of it as well, which is women are caretakers and women are acquiescers. So women will go and watch a movie where the central character is a man. They will read a book where the central character is a man, and they won't go, oh, this book doesn't have any meaning or value for me. but the reverse is not necessarily true. And someone, I'm not sure who was, said, you know, someone will say people don't accept that or won't like that, and then you go, well, I'm people. No, you're not. See, that's the thing. When a politician or an executive says people, he doesn't mean you.
Yeah.
He means white men. I mean, that's one of the things that's gotten exposed in politics this year, is that people doesn't mean people. It's like when somebody says things were better back in the 50s. For who? For who were things better back in the 50s? You know, so you really have to understand the language. That's why I was saying before, you know, you have to make these decisions every step of the way. What are you going to accept? What are you going to fight about? Am I going to let that one go by? Or am I going to actually call that person on that? What serves me best in that moment for my short and long-term goals in this moment? And it's always a question, because it's so thick, the vocabulary, the choices, exactly, every step of the way. Yeah, are you gonna please do.
Sorry, just very quickly. I think what you brought up about women being willing to empathize with a male protagonist, I think is so important, but I don't know that that's 100% inherent. We are asked from the time we are very small children
to empathize
with male protagonists. I think if little boys were asked at the same rate to empathize with female protagonists just in the films they watch and the play, I think they would grow up.
Absolutely. I'm not saying I'm not saying why. And Frozen has proven it. Little boys love Frozen.
Okay, let's have one more comment.
One more comment. We have one more question.
Okay.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's something that we need to teach our next generation, to empathize for women. We need to teach our men that. The young men, because we can still change them.
And the cultural diversity and the acceptance of gender. Absolutely. Diversity as well. Yes.
This is the passion. This is the passion that we need to make a difference.
I kind of have, it's sort of a question, it's sort of more of a comment and suggestions. Okay. When you said that the internet is the equalizer and it's not erasing women anymore, I don't really trust that. It's not quite what you said, but as an example, Pandora, which is that it introduces you to new music. If you put in 80s rock, you will not hear Pat Benatar, you will not hear Joan Jett. You will hear cycles of some of the more derivative metal type bands like Poison. They will cycle through again. 90s alternative rock, which is after the internet age when all that stuff is out there, you will not hear the Breeders. You will not hear Kathleen Hanna's any of her bands from King and Kill.
But that's not what I was saying.
You will, but let me
if you go look for them, you can find them.
You have to look for them though, but they won't come up if you're just. They won't come up if you just like program them in. And they should. They should, especially when you cycle through like derivative Nirvana bands. Why aren't you hearing the Breeders? And the Breeders like Sex and Candy twice. So that, and then the other thing for film people, Ghostbusters. Go see it, even if people tell you it's terrible, because they will never do it again if it doesn't get the numbers. So they're already claiming that it's going to probably flop. So that's all.
I'm a big proponent, to just wrap up, this is amazing. I'm a big proponent that as a sisterhood, which is a word I use often, it's really important for us to build each other up and not tear each other down. Even with slut shaming, any of that, I think we just need to stand for each other because others are ready and willing, and it's already happening, to do it for us without thinking twice, you know? So I could get on a soapbox, but I won't. That's why you asked me to moderate.
I would just strongly add that it's really important while we're in this initiative, because it's happening in corporate America, it's in every industry. It is not distinct. As an artist, we're all multidimensional, so I do have a corporate role in diversity and inclusion. And to the point a couple of the panelists said, we could recreate the same system if we isolate the men from the conversation. Some of them really do not understand the stats. They have daughters, they have wives, they don't understand what exactly is the issue, even though we're aware of it. And yet we have companies like Nielsen who does marketing stats that clearly indicate we are the buying power. Women are the buying power. So whether it's a system that has worked for them, it's not going to work for much longer, and they know that now, even in corporate, they have to start elevating the women into leadership positions because there's research showing that we are very successful in anything we put our hands on.
And that is a brilliant segue. What Jackie taught us, which was written by one of the first female CEOs in the country, who I happen to work for. She's not very easy to work for. But she did write this book about Jackie Onassis, so who wasn't just a pretty face in a pillbox hat. She actually did do quite a lot for the cause of women as well. So sorry to butt in, but we do need to move on with the day. We have a lot more workshops happening. We have our workshop leaders downstairs ready. It's been a fabulous discussion. Obviously, it's unending. There are so many things to talk about, and please do carry on the conversation and keep on activating, keep on doing your thing, keep on making your work, keep on making your art, keep on supporting each other, because that's how we will win through in the end. And we're getting there, and it shouldn't, hopefully it's been a long, slow landslide, but soon, hopefully, the momentum will gain and keep gaining and gathering, and we'll win, obviously. And if I could just add to that, this is an amazing perspective from across the board, and thank you so much for being here, our panelists. As Jenny mentioned, the momentum is, and these ladies mentioned, the momentum is moving forward. We feel the passion and the power that we have. We just need to embrace and move it forward. So kudos to all of you for what you do, and look forward to continuing to connect. And I just want to also mention that we're just getting started with these dialogues. So I'm hoping to do a panel series through the year to continue this dialogue, and so that it doesn't just end in one day. We can keep it moving. So thank you for being here today.